The engineer heard the machines whirring before he saw them. Functioning perfectly after 80 years of abandonment, the massive metal devices continued their grim work, processing human remains into fine powder without a single human operator. The underground Nazi facility, sealed since 1945, had somehow maintained power and operational capacity, its mechanical claws still moving as if guided by invisible hands. Dr. Werner Schaefer stood motionless at the entrance of the recently discovered bunker complex. His credentials as Germany's leading forensic archaeologist had granted him first access to what military officials were calling Facility Zero, an underground installation never documented in any Allied or Soviet records after World War II. As the head of the excavation team, he had expected to find another abandoned Nazi research facility. What he discovered instead defied rational explanation. "At first, I thought it was the ventilation system," Schaefer later reported to the German Federal Archives. "Old bunkers often contain mechanical systems that make noises when disturbed. But this was different. This was the sound of active machinery, rhythmic, purposeful, continuous." The discovery began 3 months earlier, when construction workers in northern Poland broke through an unusual concrete barrier while expanding a highway. Initial investigation revealed a small entrance leading to what appeared to be a standard military bunker. However, ground-penetrating radar quickly revealed something far more extensive: a massive underground complex spanning over 30,000 square meters, built on 3 distinct levels. When Schaefer's team first entered the facility, their hazmat suits and breathing apparatus proved immediately necessary. The air contained unusual particulate matter that coated their equipment with a fine, ash-like substance. But it wasn't until they reached the 3rd level that the true horror revealed itself. The machines were running. Schaefer's voice trembled during his recorded testimony. Row after row of industrial equipment, larger than anything I've ever seen from that era. Conveyor belts, massive metal chambers, crushing mechanisms, all operational, all moving in perfect synchronization. And everywhere, a fine powder being collected in containers labeled with the Totenkopf symbol. The skull and crossbones insignia of the SS marked each container, alongside serial numbers and dates, the most recent from just 1 week prior to their discovery. This impossible detail sent the first member of Schaefer's team racing back toward the entrance, violently ill. What they had found was described in recovered documents as Anlage zur menschlichen Reduktion, facility for human reduction. According to the partially destroyed records recovered from an office adjacent to the main processing floor, the facility was designed under direct orders from Heinrich Himmler in 1943, as the Nazi leadership began anticipating eventual defeat, but its purpose went beyond simple disposal of evidence. The documents describe something called Project Continuance, explained Dr. Elise Mueller, the historical archivist assigned to translate the recovered materials. They believed they could preserve the essence, what they called the fundamental energies, of selected individuals by processing their remains through these machines. The resulting material would supposedly retain certain properties. What made the discovery truly horrifying wasn't just the facility's existence, or even its continued operation. It was what happened when Schaefer's team attempted to shut down the machines. "We located what appeared to be the main power controls," Schaefer recounted, his clinical tone betrayed by visible shaking. "When we threw the master switch, the lights dimmed momentarily, but the machines continued. We cut external power lines. They continued. We physically attempted to jam the mechanisms. They repaired themselves." The team's electrical engineer, Hannah Bergman, discovered something that defied scientific explanation. The machines weren't connected to any conventional power source. Instead, each contained what the Nazi documents referred to as Thule Batterien, batteries allegedly designed using principles from the Thule Society, the occult organization that influenced early Nazi ideology. "These aren't batteries in any sense we understand," Bergman stated in her preliminary report. "They don't store electricity. According to the documentation, they store something described as Lebensenergie, Life energy. The machines are powered by— I can't believe I'm saying this— the vital essence extracted from human remains. When Bergman attempted to remove one of these devices for further study, she collapsed instantly, blood pouring from her eyes, ears, and mouth. She survived, but remained in a catatonic state for 3 weeks, unable to recall anything about the incident upon recovery. The attempt to extract components from the machines was immediately abandoned. Further exploration revealed storage areas containing thousands of containers filled with the processed remains. Each was meticulously labeled with names, dates, and what appeared to be potency ratings. Most disturbing were the containers marked as fresh, dated within the past 5 years. The implication is unthinkable, Dr. Mueller whispered during her debriefing. Either these machines are still being fed, or they're somehow generating their own materials. Analysis of the powder from recent containers confirmed the unimaginable. They contained human remains, with DNA profiles that matched no known missing persons. The genetic structures showed unusual modifications, sequences that one geneticist described as engineered rather than evolved. The facility's layout revealed another disturbing element. Beyond the main processing floor lay 27 sealed chambers, each containing a single chair surrounded by unusual equipment. Documents referred to these as Übertragungsräume, transfer rooms. The purpose, according to recovered notes, was to allow certain individuals to absorb the collective essence contained in the processed remains. They believed they could achieve a form of controlled possession, explained Dr. Mueller, her voice barely audible in the recording. The notes describe how selected officers would sit in these chambers and essentially take in the collected life force of hundreds or thousands of processed individuals. They were attempting to create vessels. When researchers attempted to enter one of these chambers, the door sealed itself automatically. Monitoring equipment showed that the researcher inside, Dr. Klaus Hoffmann, experienced an immediate spike in body temperature, reaching 42 degrees Celsius within seconds. Emergency protocols were activated, and the door was breached using explosives after 15 minutes of failed attempts to open it. Hoffmann was found alive but changed. His body temperature had returned to normal, but brain scans revealed unusual activity patterns. More disturbing were his eyes. Witnesses reported that the irises had changed color from brown to pale blue, and the pupils had taken on a rectangular shape. Hoffmann was placed in isolation for observation. "I feel them inside me," Hoffmann stated during his initial psychological evaluation. "Thousands of them. They're showing me things, plans, ideas, technologies. They've been waiting for so long. They need more vessels." Hoffmann escaped from the secure facility 48 hours later, killing 2 guards with unexplained strength. His whereabouts remain unknown. The investigation took an even darker turn when the team discovered the facility's intake system. Large chutes connected to the surface through what appeared to be abandoned water wells in the surrounding forest. Motion sensors placed near these access points repeatedly triggered during night hours, but security teams deployed to investigate found nothing. Remote cameras inexplicably malfunctioned whenever activity was detected. "Something is still using this facility," Schaefer concluded in his final report. "Whether human operatives continuing the Nazi program or something else entirely, I cannot say." But the machines continue to process new material weekly, and that material must come from somewhere. Analysis of the powder from the most recent containers yielded a shocking discovery. Trace evidence of modern synthetic fibers, including polyesters, not invented until decades after World War II, and microplastics consistent with 21st century pollution levels. Whatever was being processed wasn't from preserved historical remains. The investigation team established a perimeter around the facility and installed monitoring equipment throughout the complex. For 3 days, nothing unusual was recorded, except the continuous operation of the machinery. On the 4th night, all communications with the monitoring station failed simultaneously. When the backup team arrived, they found the equipment intact but wiped clean of data. The containers that had been set aside for analysis were missing. More disturbing, 3 new containers had appeared on the collection racks, still warm to the touch. DNA analysis would later match the contents to 3 hunters who had been reported missing in the area 1 week earlier. The governmental response was swift and comprehensive. The entire area was declared a restricted military zone, with cover stories about chemical contamination released to the public. A concrete containment structure was built around the entire facility, and the entrance was sealed with reinforced barriers. Official records were classified at the highest level. Yet the most disturbing development came 6 weeks after the containment was completed. Remote monitoring equipment, installed through narrow boreholes drilled into the facility, showed that the machines had not only continued operating, but had somehow expanded. New equipment had appeared, constructed from materials that had been left inside during containment. "The machinery is evolving," noted Dr. Ghaffar Bergman, who had returned to limited duty after her recovery. "It's adapting to the containment measures and developing new capabilities. We've observed what appears to be communication between different sections of equipment. They're coordinating." Further analysis of the recovered Nazi documents revealed connections to other facilities across former German-occupied territories. References to 11 other reduction centers appeared in various materials, along with a cryptic reference to a final collection point somewhere in Argentina. International agencies quietly began searching for signs of these other installations. The first was discovered in southern Ukraine 3 months later, after unusual power fluctuations drew attention to an abandoned Soviet-era factory. Behind its functional facade, investigators found another fully operational processing facility, identical in design to the Polish discovery, but twice the size. It, too, was running without human operators. "This isn't an isolated incident," Dr. Schaefer testified to a classified international committee. "This appears to be a network, a system designed to continue functioning long after its creators were gone. And it has clearly been maintained and expanded over the decades by someone or something." One aspect of the discovery has been particularly difficult to explain: the presence of modern security systems protecting both facilities. Digital surveillance equipment manufactured within the past decade had been installed throughout the complexes. Yet no evidence of human maintenance or installation teams could be found. The security footage from these cameras had been systematically uploaded to encrypted cloud servers, accessed regularly from IP addresses that could not be traced. "The implication is that these facilities are still actively monitored," explained cybersecurity expert Dr. Nadia Petrenko, "but not necessarily by human operators. The access patterns to the surveillance feeds show regular check-ins at precise 30-minute intervals, 24 hours a day, without variation. No human maintains that level of precision." Perhaps most disturbing were the communications intercepted between the two discovered facilities. Despite being physically isolated and contained, both installations had somehow established data links using frequencies that passed through the containment structures. The content of these transmissions, while encrypted, showed patterns consistent with coordination and reporting. "They're talking to each other," Dr. Petrenko stated bluntly, "and based on the communication patterns, they're also talking to other facilities we haven't found yet." The original Nazi documentation recovered from both sites referenced something called Der Endprozess, the final process. According to these materials, the reduction facilities were merely the first phase of a larger plan. The processed remains were allegedly being prepared for a culminating event, scheduled to occur when the stars align correctly, a phrase that appeared repeatedly in the documents. Astronomical analysis of this reference suggested a specific planetary alignment occurring in October of this year, just 7 months from now. The exact significance remains unclear, but entries in the recovered journals of SS officers assigned to the project spoke of the return and the Great Occupation. Several researchers working on the containment project have reported unusual dreams since exposure to the facilities. These dreams consistently feature large mechanical structures rising from the ground at various locations around the world, all simultaneously activating during what appears to be a solar eclipse. Medical monitoring of these researchers has shown unusual brainwave patterns during sleep, synchronizing precisely with the operational rhythms of the machines they had observed. 3 researchers have been removed from the project after exhibiting concerning behavioral changes, specifically attempts to sabotage the containment structures from outside. When questioned, all 3 claimed to have no memory of their actions, but reported feeling guided by an overwhelming purpose. Brain scans revealed unusual activity in the limbic system, consistent with that observed in Dr. Hoffman before his escape. The containment efforts continue, but with disturbing developments. Workers at the Polish site have reported hearing voices emanating from within the sealed structure, not through communications equipment, but directly through the concrete walls. The voices allegedly speak in multiple languages simultaneously, repeating phrases that translate to "soon" and "prepare the vessels." Ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted last month revealed new developments inside both contained facilities. The machinery appears to be reconfiguring itself, forming new patterns and structures that don't match any known industrial design. More concerning, deep scans show evidence of excavation occurring beneath the facilities, tunnels extending downward and outward well beyond the containment perimeters. They're digging themselves out, Dr. Schaefer concluded in his most recent report, and based on the expansion rate, they'll breach containment within 60 days, well before the October alignment. International response teams have begun monitoring unusual phenomena potentially connected to these facilities. Reports of missing persons near suspected facility locations have increased 28% in the past year. More concerning are the reports of individuals exhibiting unusual behaviors after returning from unexplained absences, mechanical movements, speaking in unusual cadences, and demonstrating knowledge they shouldn't possess. We're seeing evidence of what can only be described as partial possession, explains Dr. Elsa Zimmerman, psychiatric consultant to the Containment Project. These individuals appear to be operating under external influence, carrying out actions in service to something they cannot or will not identify. The most recent development came just 2 weeks ago, when satellite imagery detected unusual heat signatures at 27 locations across Europe, South America, and Asia, each corresponding to positions marked on maps recovered from the Polish facility. Ground teams dispatched to 3 of these locations discovered ventilation structures recently cleared of decades of overgrowth and debris, now actively drawing air inward. The network is activating, Dr. Bergman stated during the emergency briefing. Whatever these facilities were designed to do, they appear to be preparing for it now. Analysis of atmospheric data around known and suspected facility locations has revealed another disturbing pattern. The air contains elevated levels of unusual particulates, microscopic fragments similar in composition to the processed remains found within the facilities, but small enough to be inhaled. Regional health authorities have noted an uptick in respiratory complaints and unusual sleep disturbances in these areas. They're releasing something into the air, Dr. Bergman explained, her voice tense, something that affects human neurological function. We believe it's a preparatory agent, making the population more receptive. Yesterday, simultaneous power fluctuations were recorded across electrical grids in 14 countries, each lasting precisely 8 minutes and 43 seconds, the exact operational cycle time of the processing machines. Critical infrastructure was unaffected, but personal devices in affected regions reportedly displayed unusual symbols resembling the Thule Society iconography before returning to normal function. They're testing the system, Dr. Petrenko concluded, establishing connectivity. The next test will likely be stronger, possibly affecting critical systems. The International Containment Team has established a countdown to the October alignment, now just 196 days away. Containment efforts have been redoubled, with new technologies being deployed to neutralize the facilities. Yet, each attempt to destroy or disable the machinery has resulted in adaptation and acceleration. It's as if they know what we're planning, observed General Hartman, military liaison to the Containment Project. Each countermeasure we implement is anticipated and countered before it's fully deployed. The most recent attempt, a targeted EMP designed to disable electronic systems within the facilities, resulted in an immediate reconfiguration of the machinery to operate using purely mechanical processes. Within hours, the electronic components had been rebuilt, now shielded against similar attacks. What remains unclear is the ultimate purpose of this network and the final process it appears to be preparing for. The recovered Nazi documents speak of transformation and the new order, but the specific details were apparently reserved for inner circle members whose records have not been found. We're dealing with a system designed by people who combined industrial efficiency with occult beliefs, Dr. Mueller explained. They created something that transcends both, machinery that operates on principles we still don't understand, pursuing goals we can only guess at. As containment efforts continue, the international team faces a haunting question. If these facilities have operated undetected for nearly 80 years, how many more remain undiscovered? And what happens when they all activate simultaneously? The processing continues. The machines keep running. The countdown to October ticks forward. Have you noticed any unusual dreams lately? Strange mechanical sounds that seem to come from beneath the ground? The first signs might already be appearing in your own neighborhood. Leave a comment below if you've experienced anything unusual near abandoned industrial sites, and share this video before it gets taken down. The truth about Hitler's human reduction machines must be exposed before the final process begins. They're watching, but we're watching too.